Welcome to another spooky episode of It Crept from the 80s. And look who's back!
Me!
It's Crispin. Yes, don't be afraid, it's just him.
It's a Freddy mask.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to this newly minted month of October here in the 2020. It's okay, folks. You can still celebrate Halloween in the pandemic.
It's in your hearts.
That's
people.
right.
Yeah.
And this is beginning a series of Halloween or spooky themed episodes
Perfect.
for the show.
Yes.
So here we are again in October celebrating Halloween and who better to talk about the subject we're about to talk about than with Mr. Chris Tanski.
Hello. Good to be back.
If you can't guess, we're going to be talking about Mr. Freddy Krueger.
Frederick.
We're going to be talking about a franchise
Yes.
known as Nightmare on Elm Street.
A nightmare.
Yes.
A nightmare.
Yes. Several nightmares.
Yes.
A nightmare eye.
On Stoink Street.
That's right. That's all we're talking about. A nightmare on Stoinkmare.
Stoinkmare.
On Halloween Street. The epic.
My Warlock debut.
That's right. Many moons ago. Oh my goodness, it was like, 25, 26 years ago when we shot that.
Yeah. We were just pups. Young pups.
Yeah. So, how have you been enjoying the pandemic?
It's been quite interesting. I work from home, and so it's a lot of watching movies and more movies. So
Don't forget television.
Well, that too. Yeah, a lot of TV shows,
Entertainment.
a lot of movies, not going anywhere, and just trying to make the best of a situation. So
Yeah, it's it's something else, man.
yeah,
It is something else. And
I miss things. I miss plans. I miss what are you doing this weekend? Hey, you know what? I think we're not doing anything.
one day though, we're all gonna come together again, and it's gonna be great.
It's one big orgy.
You know what I've been missing recently,
What?
and I'm sure you've been missing it since March, is conventions.
Yes.
You know, I definitely have been feeling that general ennui and malaise of not being able to
See my friends.
go
just
to
hanging
something
out.
like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
See familiar faces,
Yeah.
smiles, people having
It's not
a good
even
time.
celebrities. It's just the people.
No, it's
people
the atmosphere.
Yeah, the people you meet, the friendships you have cultivated over the last 10 years for me, but
Yes,
obviously more for you.
I'm getting quite bored of not being able to.
You're just in the mirror talking to yourself like,
go to
"How did
these
you
things,
see
Yeah.
that show?"
I mean, luckily I have gone out a bit here and there and been able
you've
to
done
see
some
some
things.
friends. I did do a Mahoning drive-in experience, which was fun. Atmosphere-wise, it was great.
Yeah.
It was like being at a convention, but only outside.
Right.
So there's little things that I've tried to, alleviate that boredom
That itch.
and pain.
We've done some Zoom stuff with our fellow convention peoples. And
That's good.
That's been.
That's good,
That's
man. You
been
gotta.
good. Yeah.
You do what you can.
Yeah.
You do what you can. I mean, crazy times. Well, that's why It Crept from the 80s is here to give you a little
Yes.
entertainment, a little smile, a little nostalgic poke in the Giandules to make you feel happy in this uncertain time. So, and today, why don't we talk about, a child killer?
Possible child molestor.
Yeah, who was
that
terribly
we-
burned by vigilante parents.
Antifa.
Let's have fun. Let's talk about that in these terrible times and nightmares and killing kids.
Merchandising
it's gonna
of
be
killers.
Great.
Yes.
It's great. So, yes, we have sort of warned you all throughout the few years that we've been doing this show that we would get to a nightmare episode,
Yes,
and of
here we
course, Tanski had to be on it because if there's anybody out there that I know personally who's a Freddy nut,
right? There's a lot of us.
It's gonna be
Fred heads, as the kids call them.
Yeah.
But
and I thought I loved Freddy. This guy, this guy is in bed with that child molesting murderous fiend.
We're spooning.
So we're gonna get into that thickness, and we're gonna start with Mr. Tanski, and we're gonna get into we're gonna go into your dreams and your daydreams, your nightmares, your memories about Mr. Freddy Krueger and the franchise. Yes, because the people want to know. The people they go. They're so often sitting around going,
how did he get into that?
I wonder why Chris Tanski is all up in Freddy Krueger. I want to hear that backstory. I wish someplace would tell me. Yes. Oh. So here we are, giving you that origin story. Let's hear it from Mr. Chris Tanski. Take it away, Chris Tanski.
I was 8. And that's it. My dad, I was 8, and my dad took me to see that. I don't know what he was thinking. 8 is way too young to see it, but he must have seen something in me where he wasn't concerned. And
we have a similar story.
Yeah.
But you should say that your dad was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean, your dad, he was a cool dad, and this wasn't like a out of the blue, hey, we're going to go see Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, my dad was heavy into genre films.
Yeah.
From being at the age of 4, 5, 6, I remember him having his brother and his mom over to watch Halloween for the whatever NBC ABC when it premiered. He knew I could handle things. He had posters up in his. They weren't called man caves back then, but he was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff where they performed in front of the screen. So it was just a part of my life from day one, and so you start to peek behind the curtain. What's Dad watching? And slowly but surely, he allowed me to see these certain things, and he was like, "All right, let's do this. Let's go see the R-rated Nightmare on Elm Street at the theaters." And I handled it well. It was cool. Obviously blood and guts and gore and nudity and all those wonderful things.
Was there a mother figure in the picture?
Didn't bother her. She didn't really.
She
didn't really have a say.
Yeah.
It was nothing. Abusive or anything. But it was like, I'm taking him to see this.
Oh, you boys.
Yeah, kind of that. My grandmother was more like, "Why are you taking him to these things?" But whatever. He knew I could handle it. And then the rest is somewhat history because then I'm always going to the movies with him. I'm seeing things like Christine and Halloween 4 at 12. It just the ball started to roll. And
was there anything in particular about Nightmare, or like, do you remember when you sort of were like, this is my thing, this is my man?
Where did it click?
Yeah, why did it become like clearly something that you gravitate towards?
Because that's like my main
that franchise,
number
that character,
collectible thing. I think it was Dream Warriors. I know I went and saw Freddy's Revenge in the theaters as well, but it was just like, we're going to movies. But and then reading Fangoria, you would see all the different articles, and then Freddy was always usually on the cover. But it was definitely Dream Warriors. My dad, and this was pre-merchandising, so he made his own sweater, which was just basically it was either a red sweatshirt or a green sweatshirt, and he just did the stripes. And then he made his own Freddy glove, which is just a brown glove, and then he just bought a bunch of fake toy knives and cut the blades, and he taped them. And he wore it to the premiere of Dream Warriors at the Stone Ridge here in Rochester, New York. And it was a packed theater, and everybody was enamored by what my dad was wearing, and they're like, "Hey, your dad's cool." Like, they're tapping me on the shoulder because he went to go get popcorn or went to the bathroom, and then you're just sitting there, and the lights go down, and Dream Warriors starts, and that scene, you all know it if you're watching this, you know the movie, but where he comes around the corner when Kristen is stuck, with the body, and the crowd went nuts, and then it was just everything, and then obviously we get Dream Master a couple years later, and then the merchandising hits, and it's in Toys R Us, and I'm going to Toys R Us and buying stuff, and then you're getting the comic books from Marvel, and it's just too much. But it's stuff I still have today, and I'm proud of, and yeah.
But I mean, do you know like why it stuck with you? Why it's like such a say over? I mean, so what is your biggest horror love? Is it Halloween?
That's the weird thing. Like Halloween is my favorite horror film.
Okay.
Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise, and then Freddy's my favorite killer or slasher icon, horror icon. So it just runs the gambit. It's just the collector's mentality where you're just into everything, and I'm not sure why Freddy was the one where it's like I'm going to buy every possible thing I can get my hands on for a reasonable price. But
did you? I mean, see, I try to think about. I would imagine for kids, for people who, I mean,
he was silly. He started to get silly at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I would imagine that he was appealing
he's just being funny, you know,
because he was like telling jokes and he was like
he wasn't as scary anymore. And it's accessibility. I mean, you didn't see much Jason stuff in Toys R Us.
Yeah.
It was all Freddy. It was just like the squirt balls was the only.
Or even like in television in general.
Well, he was showing up on. He could talk. You know, Michael and Jason can't talk, as you know. So he's not. There's not going to be Michael's, MTV Halloween Jam. Freddy can talk. He could be, an MC of sorts. So he was all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, the Freddy thing was really permeating pop culture for sure. Yeah. So, I guess that was pretty easy for us to be able to just like, whoa, this guy's, he's on MTV.
Look at that, he's introducing videos.
He has a 1-900 number.
He's got his own TV show.
It was all over the place. Yeah. And we certainly didn't think about that shit. Like, oh, this guy's a child killer and possibly diddled kids and like
allegedly.
Here's his toy. Here's a squirt ball. Here's like all this
vinyl solid.
It's interesting
toy. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. So I mean, definitely Freddy's personality sort of won out on all the monsters.
Right, and the imagination of the kills were people turning into cockroaches.
Far more. Yeah, it was fantastical. It was imaginative.
Yeah.
Well, so mine was very similar. I was 7.
Oh.
And it was my mom who took me to see Nightmare on Elm Street. My dad has never been in the picture, but my mom and my uncles, as I've said many times, are the reason that I am the way I am today.
Same with you. My dad. Yeah.
Family members, they sort of got me into everything that I'm into and pushed a lot of weird stuff on me, and very much the same. While I was afraid of these movies, because I couldn't get enough of them. Right. I just wanted to keep watching them, but being afraid was part of the fun of it.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of watching these things.
So, having seen some horror stuff before Nightmare on Elm Street, I was prepared. This was my mom and my uncles, and they were telling me this is how it's done, showing me like...
Well, the reading of the Fangoria.
Yes, Fangorias and things like that, and showing pictures of makeup and all that stuff. And so I had that, but I was still scared. I knew it was a movie, but I was still scared. And that movie was the reason that I wanted to make movies.
Nice.
And I've talked about it before, but I don't know why. Because I certainly didn't have the capacity to
pull off,
scare someone.
Right.
It wasn't about that. I don't know what it was, and I've often been asked, like, why didn't the Star Wars stuff, why didn't the Muppet stuff, why didn't that stuff make you want to?
Those? Yeah.
When I was so in love with that stuff. But suddenly, this movie, I really don't know. I can't put my
horror
finger
is just
on it.
More
but I saw it and I was like,
to make. Like, you didn't have puppets.
I want to do this.
You didn't have spaceships. I mean, you had the toys, but you could make a fake knife and
so
have
that
him
was
chasing somebody.
definitely like, you know, the catalyst for me to beg my grandparents to get a video camera that Christmas. So if it wasn't for Nightmare on Elm Street, you know,
you'd be an accountant probably.
Who knows? Who knows? But
numbers right now.
So Freddy. So at this point, Freddy was scaring me, but I was so intrigued by who this guy was.
Oh, he scared me too.
And the idea of it didn't set in probably until well after part 2 had even come out.
Okay.
So I didn't see 2 in theaters. I didn't see 3 in theaters. But what happened was I rented Scream Greats.
Oh, nice.
And I watched their Weekend of Horrors. And Robert Englund's on it. And he's talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. Wes Craven's on it. And they're talking about all that stuff. And it was far more of a wide awake for me. It really was sort of, you know, even though I had seen the making of Return of the Jedi or whatever it was, those specials, this was far more like hitting home the fact that, oh, these are people who are making these effects. These are people who are making these movies to try to scare you and get a fun response out of you.
And that's what you wanted to do.
And these are the people behind all of that. These are the people behind the magic. And for me, when I saw that special, I was like, this is Willie. You know? Because I loved V. Our family loved V. And it didn't register until I saw this Weekend of Horrors thing. You know, because I didn't care. I was 7 years old, 8 years old. You know, like, who the fuck gives a shit about Robert Englund when you're 7, 8 years old? You know, no, it's Freddy Krueger, you know? But then you see it, and you recognize the dude as an actor in something you already enjoy, and he's so sweet and lovable. And he's Freddy. It was just like, wow. Like, that was like a real revelation to me that, like, actors, you know, people who play these roles, and it was really cool. And so then I rented, you know, part two, and he scared the shit out of me in part 2. Part 2 for me is the scariest Freddy has ever been. For me.
It's up there, yeah,
for
definitely.
Me. His look,
the makeup, him going. I actually started a list of things that gave me the creeps as a kid, and 2 of the things is him grabbing the glove from the boiler in the basement where he's looking at on him. That just sends me over the edge. And then when the grill's broken and the flames behind him, and it's just like, whoa. Like,
yeah. There's a scene in Freddy's Revenge at that party that still, like, gives me the heebie-jeebies.
I just watched it the other day,
and
I was just like, oh shit.
It's just Freddy standing there looking at the kids, and the fire's in front of him, but the light is up on his face, and his eyes are bugged out, and he's just pissed and looking at the kids
when he comes out of the ground,
and it's terrifying. And even to this day, I'm just like, God damn, you know, like, that's scary Freddy to me.
Well, it's a little goofy now, but when he had the elongated arms in part 1.
Oh, part 1.
And then he's chasing her.
Yeah.
That just, That's like, Jesus.
The 2 scary parts for me in part 1, and even in the theater, I can remember sort of like clinging to whoever was next to me, was when he chopped off his fingers.
Oh yeah,
and then when his face gets peeled off.
He's got the laugh.
Yeah, those 2 stuck with me.
That's a little jarring. Yeah,
you know. And then 2, him coming out of the body.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I was like,
oh yeah.
What? I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, how are they doing?
He's Rod's screaming for Ferris Bueller's dad.
So that I remember really vividly. I remember the face at the party.
Oh, yeah.
And funny enough is the trailer. I remember the TV ads because in the TV ad they show that chubby kid running up at the party to Freddy, and then he comes up at him, and that always stuck with me before I even rented the movie.
Chubby kid.
But yeah, so back then I had no notion of what 2 was. I just thought this is another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and it was scary and creepy and
agreed,
weird, and it didn't, whatever.
Why's that boy dancing like that?
I didn't care. Whatever. It was just a Freddy Krueger movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But it really hit home with 3.
Yeah.
And this was because growing up, I had this family, I've talked about them before, the Sarah family, and they lived down the street, and it was a whole brood of them. But I was, on and off again, boyfriend, girlfriend with Jennifer Sarah, and then they had a younger sister, then they had an older brother, Doug Sarah, and then a young brother who was my age, who I hung out with all the time, Nick Sarah. So the older brother, Doug, who was maybe like 2 years older than me or whatever, he was like a horror dude. Yeah. All right? And so his bedroom had horror shit in it. And this was the first time I had ever seen anything like that in real life.
Room of death.
Like, it was like Fangoria's Weekend of Horrors exploded in this kid's room. And I'm like, where do you even get this stuff, Yeah. But this family...
they always rented stuff.
Oh my God. They rented all of the coolest shit. And so it would be like a neighborhood weekend where all the freaking kids of the neighborhood would go over to the Sarahs, and it'd just be these brood of kids watching the craziest shit. So we were watching RoboCop. We were watching the Police Academy movies. We were watching like Porky's. We were doing all that stuff.
Parents didn't give a shit.
Oh my God. No, their dad was so cool.
No, I meant like the other kids.
I mean, whatever.
They didn't tell. Going upstairs.
And so they had rented Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. And it was a big deal. I remember.
And did you know it existed at that point?
Because of trailers and stuff and TV ads and whatnot.
Oh my God, that was the best. When I
MTV.
first saw 3 was coming out, it was this, and this is like a holy grail for me, was the theatrical standee. It wasn't very big. It was probably this, this tall, and I didn't know it was coming out. So when we went to see something else and I see it in the hallway, I lost my fucking mind.
Somehow,
like, oh my God,
that standee ended up in Doug's room.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm always on the lookout for that.
So,
for a decent price.
Yeah, so it was a big deal, and I remember. So they set up their couch, and then they had like a bunch of like beanbag chairs and everything, and we had like a popcorn row of popcorns and sodas and everything, and they just were ready, and
they did it right.
It was like a big deal, and we were like, this is cheering at this point, like we are there to cheer on Freddy, and I felt, at that time, we're 10 years old, whatever it was, like far more secure with what I loved, who he was, what the franchise was, horror in general, certainly with these guys. So this was like an ultimate sleepover thing, and Dream Warriors at the time, like blew our little minds away.
Oh my God, yes.
You know what I mean?
Still does. Still does to this day. I just watched it yesterday.
So it was like, this is
so
it.
Good, yeah.
This is it. Like the fucking music, Dokken, all that stuff. Because also Doug was like a metalhead.
Nice.
So he had all those posters. He had everything. You know what I mean? And it was just like, in a way, I looked up to Doug because of all this stuff. But Doug was kind of an asshole. He was like he was a bully.
Sorry, Doug.
Thought he could beat everybody up and all this shit. I mean, as we got older, it was ridiculous. It was like, why was I afraid of Doug? His
name's Doug.
But
sorry, Doug.
But great family, great times growing up, and Dream Warriors was a huge thing. So after Dream Warriors, I was like, I have to make sure I see Freddy again in the theaters, you know?
Yeah.
And at this point, he's on MTV. He's introducing Los Lobos and shit like that. And, you know, it's like Freddy Mania.
Yeah.
So the next one I saw in theaters was Part 4.
Right.
And that's probably, in addition to the creativity, that's probably why 4, to this day, is my favorite Nightmare movie.
Nice. Yeah.
I just am in love with that movie. I think it's so creative. The directing is...
It's such a culmination of the first 3 all in one package. Right?
And it's the Part 2 of the in-trilogy...
Right.
in-series trilogy.
Right. Yeah, Rennie Harlan was... He just...
I mean, he had an eye,
set
man.
pieces, yeah.
And that was highly appealing to get as weird and creative and wonky as he did with the effects, the camera, and what the camera was doing in the film, and and of course seeing it in theaters helped. Yeah. That was like,
that's why 3's my favorite, just the whole experience.
Yeah.
On top of being an awesome movie.
And then, I mean, you know, that just if Nightmare 3 really solidified Freddy for me, I mean, 4 was just like, this guy is... Yeah, like, there's never... I'm never not gonna like Freddy.
Yeah, even if he makes a bad movie.
Which...
He does.
He does. But, it's still, like, it's... I don't know, like, 80s kids, man, you can't go through the 80s and not love Freddy. Yeah. Like, or know Freddy, or know that series of films... Because it really was...
He's not in the top 10 of pop culture 80s icons. He's definitely top 25.
Which is, I mean, he has to be.
You just show the sweater and people know immediately
far
who it
more
is. Yeah.
than Michael. Far more than Jason.
Yeah.
You know? Because for the most part...
He's up there.
I know. But a lot of people get those guys mixed up. Who are just laymen to the...
Okay. John Q.
You know? Yeah. Jason with the knife and the mask that looks like goes out on Halloween. Freddy, yeah, but Freddy is Freddy. Freddy Krueger.
The only thing they get messed up is the spelling.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but that just drives me up a wall.
It's like,
no, it's like such a pet peeve of mine. Like, there's an E in Krueger, or there's a Y in Freddy. It's like,
So yeah. Also through all the 80s and into the 90s, Freddy was a very go-to subject for my backyard filmmaking.
Oh, nice.
I was making a lot of backyard Freddy and Jason films.
Yeah, sounds nice.
And I did the same thing. I got one of my grandfather's workman gloves, brown, dirty workman gloves, and I made these cardboard... the cardboard thing that he has. Yeah. And I taped butter knives to the glove.
Put some weight on that.
There was weight on it. And instead of saying bitch in the fan films, because I was a kid and I felt like...
Couldn't show your parent there.
I would always say wench. Shit like that.
Welcome to prime time, wench.
Yeah, well, my thing was, I've been guarding my gate for a long time, wench. I would say that. And that would be in almost every, fan film I did. And then I got in trouble because, so I went to Catholic school for a little while, and I took the glove to Catholic school. And people flipped out, and I had to bring in my family and everything, and... It was a whole mess just because of this dumbass
butter knife.
You shouldn't be watching this crap. Why you even, Freddy is not somebody you need to emulate and whatnot and this and that. So yeah, and so I felt like for a long time, I was still very much Friday over Nightmare, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why. Fully knowing that the Nightmare films were far more imaginative, far more creative.
Yeah.
The mythology was
A little bit more.
way cooler. There was more meat on those bones.
Sure. Yeah.
And Freddy, of course, as a character, is far more appealing than Jason. But for some reason,
his motive was a little bit more fleshed out. Pun intended.
For some reason, Friday always sort of notched it.
Yeah.
Went a little above. And it wasn't until adulthood and far into my 30s where I finally like reconciled with the fact that, you know what?
It's okay.
I think Nightmare and Friday are right on the same level for me. Halloween didn't hit me like it did a lot of kids. I always loved 1. I always loved 4.
Yeah.
4,
yeah.
You know, 4 was the first one I saw in theaters, so 4 was going to be like, of course, I'm like, okay, this is my favorite one. It did a lot for me. I still think it's fantastic. And for me, you can't have 4 without 5, unfortunately. And 5 is the lesser of the 2.
Sure.
But
I still enjoy. Yeah.
It's a double feature, man. It goes hand in hand. And then so I kept seeing the Halloweens after one right after another every time they were out in theaters. Yeah. And I was still excited about them, but for some reason I held up 1 and 4, and that's it. Like none of the others did anything for me. I liked 3, but I didn't like 3 until I was in like mid-20s. Maybe even closer to 30.
Like, wait a minute.
Appreciated it a lot more.
This is actually good.
So Halloween was just kind of like, you know, if anything, second. If you have Freddy and Jason on the same line.
Because that was even lower on the merchandising scale. Which is
Halloween,
weird now.
I mean,
which is weird now because it's...
Well, yeah, now it's all over the place. Yeah. But there definitely wasn't stuff like that. I mean, I had to...
You could barely find the mask. You had to, like, really...
Well, I was going to say, I had to make a makeshift mask for my Michael, because once I saw, you know, Halloween 4, then I had to start putting Michael in my fan films. So I always had Freddy, Jason, and Michael
you were ahead of
in my fan films. Oh, I made a Freddy versus Jason years
decades
before Freddy versus Jason. We also did a movie called Devil's Night Out, which combined all of them. And it had Pinhead in it.
Oh, shit.
And all of the bad guys. And I still have my raw footage of that.
That's cool.
So it was always neck and neck, Freddy and Jason. And there were films, of course, that let me down.
Sure. As
it went along in the franchise.
Peter's out.
You know, I remember having a terrible time with Jason Takes Manhattan. It was my birthday.
Aww.
I went to see it in the theaters. Excited.
Aww.
Came out. Not excited.
I still enjoyed that one.
Came out bummed. Oh, I think it was terrible. And to this day, I think it's terrible. But I watch it. And when it came out, 5 I liked because it connected to 3 and 4.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was like the end of that trilogy within the series. Yeah. So I did like it, and it wasn't until later that I was like, ooh, this is the lesser of the nightmares. This I ended up not liking his look, because they made him look like teethless and frumpy a little,
old man,
weird, and I didn't like that. And then, you know, it was gone for a while. Mm-hmm. You know, we had the TV show, which my aunt would always yell at me because I'd stay up late and try to sneak and watch it. Oh. And I'm like, yo, I'm 12 years old. Like, get off my back, you know? Like,
I'm the king of the castle.
So I would still stay up and watch it.
Yeah.
And at that time, I only watched the show because of Freddy.
Right.
Like, just the little hope that you see Freddy for those brief seconds.
When you got a Freddy episode, though, you were just
that was amazing.
9, yeah.
But
are those canon?
All I needed was those few seconds where he would say a stupid little thing throughout, and that was it. And it worked for me. I was like, okay. And then the anticipation for Freddy's Dead. Right. And we all knew Freddy's Dead was coming because Fangoria, and at that time I am fully drenched in Fango love. But the idea that this was it was a big deal. Yeah. And the posters. And other than Batman, other than 1989's Batman, this was the craziest I have ever been a part of a audience. Oh. At that time, interesting. In line, waiting for a movie. Wow. Freddy's Dead had so many it was like Wellsville
shut down.
It was so crazy. You thought Batman was huge, you know? Batman was like a circus when that came to Wellsville. Wow. And then Freddy's Dead.
You would get these when they came right out. It wasn't like a 4-week period.
Oh, no. No, these, you know.
Like, sorry, we're booked for Baby's Day Out for 4 weeks.
No, we got them. We got them. Like, this was fun. This was like, and my mom was with me. Nice. Only appropriate that my mom was going to be there for the last. And I had a couple friends, but this was packed with, like, you know, older, late teens, early 20s, just people on the street, just
across the board,
ready for this movie, you know. So we got in, we got our 3D glasses, and so at the time, Freddy's Dead was amazing. Like, we were just so...
When it ended, you were like...
We were just like on cloud 9. Sure. Everything was like great. There was cheering. There was screaming. The 3D actually looked good in theaters. Yeah. With those red and fucking grody-ass glasses that are terrible. But it worked. It really worked. My mom was screaming and slapping her knee, laughing, and...
That was Cooper.
It was a really good time. And then I remember when it came out on video, I had it reserved, and it was for my birthday party. Nice. At that time. And I watched it again with my party friends at the birthday party, and it didn't quite hit me like it did in the theater.
He's dressed like a witch.
I definitely duped it because at that time I was renting and duping tapes left and right. So I duped it, but I wasn't sure if I was wasting a videotape or not. Because I just was so like...
I think it might be the one I've seen the least.
Absolutely.
Years.
Absolutely. Yeah. It definitely is. When a few years ago I was doing a marathon with Katie, because she hadn't seen all of them. And so we get up to 6, and she's like, let's put 6 on. And I'm like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I did not put it in. Wow. So she still hasn't seen Freddy's Dead to this day. Huh. I'm like, well, let's just go right to New Nightmare. It really doesn't work for me. Where it did... I mean, I was quoting that movie when we came out of that movie. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There were scenes that blew me away, you know? The video game scene, I loved it when I saw it. I absolutely loved it. Johnny Depp's appearance, cameo. Loved it. So many things.
So was he Johnny Depp in that scene, or was he Rod?
The Carlos and his ear thing, all that stuff, I was like... I love this. And then I saw it again, man, you know, and it must have only been, 6 months when the VHS came out, 6 months later, 7 months later or whatever. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't like this. Like, this is...
I don't want to play with
Freddy is, Freddy's like a real fucking jokester. He's like a cartoon character.
Is this thing on?
Oh, I was just like... Ooh, like what happened? You know? Yeah. And pretty much, I just when I would do, marathons and things like that, I just kind of stopped watching that movie. Even though I owned it,
we all got it.
it just wasn't for me. And then, it was dead. It was dormant. It was like, well,
that's that.
So I would always just watch 1 through 5 for the longest time.
Yeah, same here.
And then, through Fangoria, you get those rumblings that Wes Craven is working on a new one. And like, what the fuck?
But he's dead.
And I loved New Nightmare. Loved it. I still have my
That's just ahead of the game.
my stub, my ticket stub.
Oh wow,
my theater stub for it.
It did not do well.
No, it didn't.
People did not want that.
Yeah. And I remember at that time I was sort of like kid box office. I definitely cared about
You're
if the movies that I loved was making good box office.
That was me. Me to a T. That's still me.
And it was a bummer. And at this point, Jason Goes to Hell had already been out, and I had my amazing moment with that when Jason Goes to Hell came out as well, and that movie tanked when it came out.
Yeah.
6 million opening, like, woo! At least this made more than that. But it didn't matter. I was like, this was so genius to me.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like was real Freddy's look. But I loved that they still kept... the rips in his... Instead of like the burn, it was more like those rips in his flesh. And then you could see the
Did you like the glove? Or?
I really didn't like the glove that much. I didn't mind the trench coat.
That was the original... Look. That's what they originally wanted.
The trench coat, I thought, made him even look creepier and cooler in a way.
Yeah, I got you.
But it was his look. I didn't like the eyes, and I didn't like the ripped look. Okay. I get what they were doing.
Sure.
But again, it didn't bother me. I was like, this is so cool and weird and different.
Yeah.
And I still got the Freddy that I liked in that moment where he comes out and... it was like, okay, that's the makeup.
And it also kind of went back to the scary Freddy.
Oh yeah, of course, yes, absolutely. But I just thought it was really amazing, and I remember a couple of my friends were like, they weren't
brilliant.
They weren't into it, but I loved it. So, and then another wait,
Yeah.
and then you wait, and you wait, and you wait.
Keep hearing rumblings.
Yeah.
New director, new script.
Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
Now, how did you feel about Freddy versus Jason?
It's fun. It's probably another one where I haven't really watched as much. I don't know if I can totally pinpoint my issues with it, but
I can.
It's fine. It's fun. They retcon a bunch of stuff that. It's a WWF WWE movie. You're just there to see the ending, and you don't give a shit about any of the characters.
Oh my God, no.
And that's the problem. Where in the other movies you cared about Alice, you cared about Nancy.
Yeah,
Kristen.
this was
like,
full on disposal.
Kill, being Silent Bob. It was a film made by executives, and
a ton of executives.
So I feel like if someone could do a right one, I mean, there's the book, Slash of the Titans, where it details all the different scripts that they just could never really pinpoint how to do it right. So, A for effort. It's still entertaining. It's still fun, but it's probably not ranked too high for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the anticipation for this movie was probably
palpable. Yeah.
Right up there with
the marketing, the
Phantom
posters.
Menace. For me,
we've been waiting for it for however,
I could
15
not
years, 20 years, whatever it was.
You couldn't make me
13.
not excited for this movie. I was just over the moon for this movie. So I wanted to do everything I could to be a part of this monumental thing. So I think you've heard the story, and I know you guys have. But I set up the midnight showing.
In your town.
Here in Rochester.
Oh, it was here? Oh,
it was here in Rochester.
Was that Tinseltown?
It was at Tinseltown. We made giant posters. I had to have a meeting with Tinseltown. I had to have a meeting with New Line Cinema over the phone.
Shit.
I had to go on a radio show to promote the screening. It was the only way they were going to do it because for some strange reason, they weren't going to do a midnight show. They weren't going to do a midnight show.
It's like
I couldn't believe it.
So
couldn't believe it.
Okay.
So I said I had to put a proposal together of what we were going to do, how we were going to make it special, and almost guarantee to them that we were going to have a giant audience. You know what I mean? And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, absolutely, this is Freddy versus Jason.
We've been waiting for this forever.
You know?
Yeah.
So we did it. We promoted it. We made these giant posters that Tinseltown hung up on their windows.
Yeah. New Line sent you a bunch of stuff too,
and so New Line, without me knowing, got my address, and I just figured they were going to send like...
so they asked you for your address.
They asked me for my address.
Without you knowing, they got your address.
No, they did ask me for my address.
Get that boy's address.
But I honestly thought it was going to be like, they're going to send like a hat, or, or something like that, and like maybe a thank you to the audience or whatever. Yeah. Something. And then like a month goes by, and that giant package shows up in front of my door from New Line, and I mean it was a giant box, and in this giant box were hundreds of theatrical posters, hundreds of the making of book, the magazine, hundreds of the novel, the soundtrack, Camp Crystal Lake T-shirts, just all the Hypnosil. There was dozens of bottles of fake Hypnosil. They were just jelly beans. But with the Freddy, I think I got it over here. But this, here it is. This is from New Line. And this was mine. Because the others had to be giveaways.
Oh, that's a big... That's cool.
Yeah, so they sent like 15 of these for giveaways. Because we were going to do trivia before the film.
Nice.
And so they sent all this shit for us to give away to people who won. And then, really, honestly, after the movie was done, we were going to give each person a poster. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So all the leftovers were mine and my friends, and we just like divvied it up between all of us. So we were ready, man. We were ready to do this. And then the unthinkable happens.
I know what happens here.
We had a blackout. The blackout that took out like
everything.
Yeah, like, New York, the East Coast. It was like, no! I could not believe it. I remember we were in my apartment at the time, biting our nails, wondering if it was going to hit Rochester. If it was going to hit Rochester, is it on our way? Is it happening? We had the news on, everything. We were like, what the fuck is happening? It happened. Tinseltown blacked out.
Yep.
It was over. Nothing we could do.
Yep.
But that same night when it happened, the opening night for Freddy vs. Jason, for some reason, some weird reason, in Buffalo, the AMC was not blacked out.
Oh.
It was not blacked out. Casey had a friend who worked at that theater that night.
You drove?
And he calls him up, and he's like, and he explained the whole thing to him. And he's like, listen, like, this is what was happening, this, blah, blah, blah. What can you do? So his buddy was like, oh, just come by here at 11:30, and when we close down, we'll just show the movie to you guys.
Oh.
So we drove to Buffalo, which is only like an hour away.
Yeah.
And our group was the only people in the theater watching Freddy vs. Jason for the first time.
That's cool.
That night, and we fucking lost it. We were having a ball. It was so amazing. And then, the next day,
you went and go.
Tinseltown called me and said, do you want to do it tonight?
Oh,
I said, absolutely. So we had a cake done up, and we went out and we did the trivia, and the place was packed.
Right.
People were screaming and yelling, and we basically gave out everything other than the stuff we kept for ourselves. It was so awesome, and to know what the audience was about to see was really exciting. So I was watching the movie, but also watching everybody, and people were up on their feet. People were like cheering Freddy or Jason. They were like, they had their own side.
Team Freddy, Team Jason.
So fucking amazing. And it was one of those movie experiences that I'll never forget. So yeah, Freddy's a Freddy's a big deal, man. Yeah. The Nightmare franchise is a big deal, and if you're a monster kid growing up in the 80s, Freddy is
automatically you gotta gravitate.
Yeah, man, he is inevitable.
Yeah, I was working at the movie theater when the power went out because we were going to run it down that evening with the entire staff, and
I'm telling you,
we were just sitting around
in my eyes because
we were like camped out because we were like, it's gonna come on, it's gonna come on, it's gonna come on, it's gonna come on. We were like eating all the ice cream because it's starting to melt, and we're like, it's gonna come on. And then like 1 o'clock came, and it was just like, can't do it anymore. And we all left, and I had to work the next day, and I didn't get to see it till later that weekend. But we were crushed. I was crushed because everybody knew I was the Freddy kid. So
yeah. Man, why didn't you come to Tinseltown?
I didn't. Well, I was working.
Oh.
We were closing. We were working. Getting ready for Friday, and then our gift was to run it down. We did that back in the day. We were allowed to run down films Thursday nights, and then once we switched over to being a Regal, that it was not policy to do those things. So. Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but I was very content with Nightmare being over.
If there's never another one, yeah, it'd be cool to have. That's the thing with horror films is we never really officially get closure ever. But it'd be cool if a film just it has the ending and that's it. There's no open ending. There's no like stinger at the end.
I just was very I was satisfied, I guess. I was like, okay, if there's never a Nightmare movie ever again, we have these films.
Sure.
And
I'm okay
this
with
is
that.
great.
I'm okay with that. That being said, if they were like, all right, we're doing one more, Robert's on board.
Well, I was going to go to that.
Yeah.
The only way you could pull me back in is if Robert is involved in another Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Right. Somebody else played him and he was the voice, maybe. I don't know if Robert can do.
I think he could. I think he's got one more in him.
Okay.
One more.
Then even though he's like 70 something.
One more in him. They
gotta still do it. Because it's a lot of special effects to begin with. So
yeah, I mean, obviously he doesn't
Freddy
have to
could
do
be a robot,
crazy shit. He doesn't have to do
right.
the.
It's not like Freddy's flipping. Well, maybe occasionally, but
yeah,
hip-ups and stuff. But
I kind of so.
I doubt he did those anyways. It wasn't like Robert
absolutely
was doing the stunt.
I was
stunt Freddy. Did you like him when he was on the Goldbergs? Did that work for you? Or was that silly too?
I wanted to.
Aw.
I wanted to.
It was Freddy. He was back.
I
first
know,
time he was Freddy in,
but I was like, there was something off about it. It was just
a little bit. The makeup was a little.
It just I don't know. I don't know what it was. I definitely was smiling through it.
Sure. Because it was only like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
I think that was part of the problem.
I definitely was smiling through it, and it was nice to see him back at it, but something quite didn't sit well with me. I don't know if it was the writing.
It's a comedy. So
I know, but how it was portrayed, I don't know. I just, I don't know. What it did was give me hope.
Right.
That's what it
That's
really
what it
did
for a lot of people.
So, 2010 comes around and we get that remake. And I
tried to like it because it was Freddy, even though it wasn't Robert Englund.
I couldn't. I just couldn't.
I mean, I'll say positive things. There's certain things in it
There are things in it
that are like,
I
that's
loved,
awesome.
and I
like,
said,
yeah, like the micro
only-
sleeping.
if only
That's cool.
Robert were in this. If only Robert were in
All
this.
right. Say if he wasn't in it, but the makeup was better. I think that's a huge. That's a huge problem.
I don't know. It is one of those. It's one of those times where I just cannot take the person out of the character. I just can't. Like.
Because I thought Jackie Earle did a hell of a job.
I mean, Jason is Jason because it doesn't matter.
Right.
But Freddy.
Oh, I gotcha.
Robert Englund is Freddy, and I just couldn't. If anything, I felt bad for Jackie Earle Haley.
Right.
I felt
That
very like
because he was never going to live up to.
You know, like
Right.
you were admirable. You tried your best, and I just don't think people.
I don't know. I feel like if the makeup was better, people would have been a little bit more.
I get what they were doing. Obviously, it was like more. Oh, this is a real burn victim.
Right. Oh, for sure. Paid for
Um,
effort, but the thing, my problem with the remake, well, amongst many things, was they had all the money in the world, and there isn't a creative thing in that entire movie.
Other than the micro stuff.
Yeah,
That's the thing that I was like,
like,
my
oh,
God,
that's
if you took this theme, this premise, and put it into another Nightmare movie with Robert Englund, this would have been spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole, like, maybe the parents were wrong about him. That aspect was interesting.
I definitely didn't like how they sort of.
They went more towards, yeah, I got you.
I didn't like that. I didn't.
Because
like,
that makes it less entertaining, I guess.
Well,
like,
it's almost it's just less.
it's skeeve. It's like
It's far more that.
Yeah.
You know,
I got you.
it's far more that. Not that you sympathize. You want to sympathize with Freddy.
Right.
You know, I don't like when somebody tries to explain your bad guy.
Yeah. No, that's
In a movie like this.
Yeah.
You know, like Lecter, all those types of guys.
That
I get
needs
it.
explaining,
There's
yeah.
some sort of.
There's a psychology to it.
Yes,
Yeah.
psychology. That's what I'm going for. But this is like these are your movie monsters, and I don't want to see some sort of.
Well, he was kind of bullied and pushed around. And...
Yeah. Like I love the mysticism.
Yeah.
The mystery.
That's what makes them scary.
So I prefer that. So I didn't like any of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it didn't. I walked away feeling like a missed opportunity for me.
Definitely. Because at the time there were remakes that were working.
Yeah.
I mean, the Friday the 13th remake, it worked.
It took me a while to be
Well,
okay with that one as well.
My issue with that, not to go on a remake rant or talk about Friday the 13th, but they were touting that as this new, exciting chapter, and it was just the same movie, just modernized, and he was...
But what's interesting, for me, it wasn't the same that I wanted.
I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was too...
Modern,
yeah.
yeah.
It was too... I was like, if you're going to do this, you do it right. And you put it in the 80s. You set it, at the fucking camp.
Right.
Stop doing these goddamn stories of everything that's
away.
after the camp.
Right.
Oh, it's dilapidated and people are fucking around at a camp that's not a camp anymore.
Right.
Like, go to the camp. Put counselors in those camps. Put kids in danger.
So that's what you would do to revive.
And set it in the 80s. That's what I kept wanting. I kept thinking, like, they're gonna do it. They're finally gonna do it.
See, I always thought it'd be cool if Freddy took place in, like, the 50s.
The real Freddy?
Yeah.
Fred?
Yeah.
Frederick?
Or no, the Dream Freddy, but it took place, like, he found some, like, time portal and started attacking
Mr.
kids.
Sandman?
Yeah, from, like, a different era. I don't know.
Bring me a dream. Black and white.
Yeah, it was so expensive. And they would never do that. That's why I feel like they never would do a Jason in the snow. Just because of the complications.
Yeah. Complications.
Shooting in the snow. But yeah.
Midgets.
I don't know. I feel like we could still... Now, once, God forbid, Robert Englund passes away, it's dead. There's just no way they could ever reboot it to you.
Not for me.
Okay.
Not for me. Nightmare's over. You know? You give us one more
send off.
I would love that. But other than that, Freddy is Robert, Robert is Freddy, and he is 95% of what...
Why it works.
Yes.
I gotcha.
For me.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's tons of people that agree with that. Just because they did attempt it. They tried to reboot it.
They tried.
It did not work.
It didn't work for me.
It didn't even make enough like the Friday remake.
No.
It made more money.
Crazy.
Yeah.
You know? But I think it just turned off fans.
Yeah.
You know?
They probably didn't even see it. There's probably people that have never even seen it because they saw the makeup. They saw...
Crown bless them. You know?
Yeah, good. That's not Freddy to me.
So... But, do you have something in your... Now, you have a vast Krueger collection.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the years I have, but I've sold a lot of things, unfortunately. And now I just have things that really, like...
Mean something to you?
Resonate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That are like, okay, this is good, and this represents my love and affection for... Ooh, I had Anders, my buddy Anders.
Oh, you had a glove?
I had a glove. He
Nice.
made me a Nightmare 4 glove, and it was stolen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I loved that thing, man.
Aw.
Anders was a big fan of LBP, and he made that glove for me.
For
I didn't
you?
have to
Wow.
pay him because he was a giant fan of LBP.
That's awesome.
He just said every time I come to a show, let's hang out, and so I did.
Oh.
So I would hang out with Anders all the time. Going back to like 2000, 2001.
Holy shit.
And my Nightmare glove was stolen.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Don't know who it was.
Don't know.
Don't know,
Legit?
because I've had
Wow.
so many like different people throughout.
Well, you've moved a lot.
Yeah,
and,
I've moved so much, and but it was stolen out of whatever home I was in at the time. And I loved that thing. Loved it.
He loved it.
But is there something that your number one cherished item, Freddy item that you
Wow.
have?
I actually have a bunch. I once at the toy show here in the Village Gate, I found the entire collection of children's novelizations, hardcover children's novelizations, which is just like that. I didn't even know they existed at the time, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, "How much do you want for these?" And I'm expecting whatever it is I'm paying, and they were like $10 for all of them. And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Yes. So that's up there, but my neighbor's nephew worked at New Line, and she knew how much I loved Freddy, so she had her nephew send over all this memorabilia from Freddy's Dead. So I have, and I don't think many people have this. It's a black coffin that opens up, and it had the logo on it. That's up there because I feel like it's very rare.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
But I mean, I collected all the comics and all the magazines and toys. I have a display case of pretty much every. I don't have them all because it's tapered. Because now it's just a juggernaut where it's like everything. It's like I can't get everything at this point.
Yeah.
So some stuff I haven't picked up, but within reason, I do get them. Like the cartoon version. I love that.
It's up there.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't get everything these days, but the Max figure, FX figure.
Yeah.
It's so stupid, but it
Yeah.
was just such a... Because they didn't make anything
But that's what we
else.
had, man.
Yeah.
You know, we had that. We had
Talking
the
Freddy
pull
from
string.
Matchbox. Especially when you hear like, oh, they pulled these from shelves because, killer molester. But yeah, I'm proud of my stuff. It's cool. I go down occasionally and just stare at it.
Yeah.
Creepily.
Hey, we all stare
Yeah.
at
I
our
mean,
collections.
It's easy to come by now, but the Freddy album, when that first came out.
Do the Freddy's.
My dad found it in Toronto because he couldn't find it anywhere else. Because it was just such an odd. I had the LPs, but I sold them, and then I got them all back, and then I sold them again.
Oh, man.
Well, because they came out with that huge box set from Waxworks, so I didn't need the old ones anymore. It's like, why do I need two things? I know it's cool to have. The
And you didn't sell the wax?
No, I
Okay.
kept the box
That's
set
good.
because it was everything. But then I
Yeah.
sold.
I wanted that thing. It was so expensive.
Yeah.
So expensive.
I probably, yeah.
But I loved the
I have it.
loved the look of it. I
Yeah.
love what they did with the packaging and everything.
Souls.
Ugh, man.
Anything else?
Yeah, I don't know. That Nightmare 4 glove for me was my tops.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because it was made for you by like Robert Englund's best friend.
and a really great dude.
Because Anders was doing gloves before anybody.
Yeah, Anders is such a good dude. I mean, I love that Freddy bust now.
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
that's top. But you know, and we've met Robert Englund.
Yeah.
And he's you horror fans know, the guy can't shut up. He loves to talk.
He loves talking about, yeah. So infectious when you're in the room with him.
Yeah.
Because he's not just engaging you as you're getting your autograph or your photo. He's talking to everybody in that room.
Yeah.
He's telling stories. Like when I first met him, I was just a fucking mess. Like you can see photos of him. And I'm just like, ugh, just stone face. And, you know, I get the autograph, I get the photo, and then I was able to give him some Fright Rags stuff. And I gave him like our Hypnosil because we had the candy. And then I found out he loved The Shining, so I gave him our Shining shirt. And he got it, and he was like, I love getting swag. And it's like, oh my God, it's Robert Englund.
Yeah, we met him in 2003, and I took that. It was a picture. It was a photo thing that he did for like some one of those magazines,
Yeah.
some like
Cinema Fastique.
beautiful photo shoot or whatever, and his wife like started going off on the photo, like, let me tell you about the day we took this photo. You know, she just really,
Nancy.
you know, she's like, I think this is the most handsome my husband has ever been. Like, she's really going off on it. And I just want to talk about V
Right.
to Robert.
Please autograph my bow tie.
But he found that refreshing, that I wanted to talk about V, and I didn't, even though I was bringing Freddy.
Right.
And I said, of course I love Freddy, but man, I love V. And he's like, let me tell you about V. You know, and then
Mark Singer.
Yeah,
was
you
a son
can't-
of a bitch.
you can't shut him up, and that's, I think, awesome.
That's what-
because he's giving each person
Right.
worth
Which is-
what you're doing.
Which is what's sad today is he's so popular still.
yeah, it's got
But
a.
now it's just like get him in and out, and it's unfortunate.
And I think he obviously knows that.
Yeah.
Because man, does he want to give you worth your
Right.
time.
That's why if you ever, when conventions come back, if he's doing a panel, you gotta go to it.
and catch him.
And he loves wine.
Yes, he does.
Because then he'll go for days.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Tis the season for you to be
Watching these.
watching
films,
your Nightmare marathon
and hopefully, I'm thinking, hoping, praying next year, even though we have every Blu-ray, every DVD, I'm hoping we get a nice Scream Factory box set.
I bet we are.
In the same vein as the Friday the 13th.
I bet we're gonna get it. I
I'd
really
like to
do.
think we will.
I think we will. I mean, with the success of this one, with this Friday the 13th
Right.
box, going ham.
Yeah.
Even in those comments, now we need Nightmare.
Yeah.
I think they will, and I will get it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter that I have gotten them
I
over
got
and
the
over and over
DVD
again.
one that was like one of my first DVD purchases.
Yeah, 1999. That set was huge.
I have
It was such a huge set.
Blu-ray skinny box set.
Beautiful. When New Line gave a shit, when they wanted to pack their films with extras, any behind the scenes they could.
Now their menus have the wrong movie attached to it. It's like, that's from part 6. Why is it on
Yeah, it's
3? What the fuck? Warner
That's,
Brothers.
yeah. I think they will. Oh, and that documentary.
Holy shit! It's like
The 8-hour documentary that's out there, it's been a while now, but that is one of the best making of documentaries ever. That's right up there with the Lord of the Rings stuff. Like, it is so thorough and so awesome. And I can't even tell you how many times I've watched that documentary. Never Sleep Again, folks.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen the Nightmare documentary, so fucking good.
Preeminent. Yeah.
And if you love that stuff like we do,
yeah. So perfect.
you're just going to love it. It's just take a day.
It doesn't feel like how many hours it
Let
is.
it pour over you. It's so good. Yeah, so I don't know. Anything else you want to say about our beloved franchise, Nightmare on Elm Street?
I think we covered all. Merchandising, music. No, yeah. I think that's, yeah. I love them.
And don't forget to check out the spin-off, Sharp Hand Joe. He's out there.
Or Freddy.
You get Sharp Hand Joe. You can get some memorabilia. There's great stuff out there. There's a T-shirt company out there who made a fantastic Sharp Hand Joe T-shirt. Be on the lookout for Sharp Hand Joe, the motion picture.
I'm not even going to give it a cool name. Sharp Hand Joe. The Return. The Revenge. Sharp Hand Joe's Revenge.
Yes. Okay, so that's it, guys. We hope you enjoyed us talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, our love of Freddy Krueger, the franchise. Let us know in the comments what you like.
Your favorite Freddy.
Yeah. What's your favorite Freddy?
Sequels.
Do you have
movies?
any special moments with the franchise?
Robert Englund moments where you've met him at a convention?
Yeah, let us know, please. Because we want to, compare our memories and realize how much cooler they are than yours.
Aw.
I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding.
Yes. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Stay sane.
Don't let Freddy get you.
And whatever you do, don't forget to put your mask on.
Yeah.
No, don't fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep or you'll wake up dead somehow. All right. Bye, everyone. Wench.